Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Adapt series, where we have conversations on business continuity during these troubled times. I'm your host, Sanjana Balaraman, and today I'm going to be talking to Justin Cruz, a senior client success manager at Stella Connect. Justin's going to be talking to us about how you can motivate your work from home force, a topic that's particularly relevant today given the fact that a lot of us are working from home for the first time. And there are a lot of managers out there who are first time remote managers. I think there are a lot of tips and tricks that all of us can pick up from Justin's experience. Let's dive in. Hi, Justin. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Sanjana?
I'm good. I'm good. Where are you based right now, and how's it going over there?
I'm currently located in the epicenter in New York. I live in
Wow.
Astoria, Queens,
Okay.
but doing my best to social distance and quarantine and stay indoors as much as possible. But
Of
we do
course.
once a day. We have a little French bulldog, so we'll go for a walk once a day, and that's kind of our opportunity to get some fresh air,
Yeah.
to get out of the indoors for a little bit.
No, I get it. Like we're in lockdown here as well, and so taking my dog for a walk is the only time I actually step out of the house. So I understand that. Um, so Justin, so I'm a first time worker from home, I guess you would say. And I find that it's a little difficult to stay motivated when you're working from home, especially when you're doing it for the first time. And when you're used to constantly seeing your colleagues, you kind of miss that social connect that you get with them every day. And there's so many distractions when you're working from home as well. So all of this probably directly affects my motivation to stick with what I'm doing. And I find that it's difficult to balance as well, like work life and personal life. And that kind of brings us to what we're going to be talking about today, which is how to motivate work from home teams. So to start off, I think an important question would be, have you worked remotely before, and how does Stella Connect typically handle a work from home situation?
Yeah, no, these are unique times for a lot of people and new
Yeah.
times. And I've been very lucky. I've been at Stella almost 5 years now. And Stella's always been very flexible with working from home. I had never really come from a work environment like that before. So even for me, it was kind of awkward to come home and be on your couch and being working, and not being socializing with your employees. But I found out very quickly that it actually allowed me to have a different experience that was just as productive, if not more productive. And
Mhm.
Stella really did a good job prior to what's happening today of just making sure we felt like we had all the tools that we needed, always open lines of communication, and just really settling in. So, definitely as I got more and more used to it, I understood, okay, there's a huge benefit to being in the office. I'm a huge component or a huge fan of that hallway conversation, right? That ability to catch
100%.
someone you haven't seen in a couple of days and catch up on all the important news or updates for the team, or even just to socialize for a minute. And that's
Yeah.
a lot tougher to do when you're at home. But it's at the same time, I find that those moments in the office can sometimes take away from productivity time, my ability to get on my email, to check certain things. And there's that balance of how much I want to make sure I'm engaged with my teams and my peers, but then also doing my work in my role. And I'm a client success manager, so making sure I'm available for my clients.
Of
And
course.
so with the work from home balance, yeah, that balance of some distractions, right? So I don't, you might even hear in the background, my wife is cooking breakfast right now. And those are things that, are going to happen naturally. People, we got to continue doing what you need to do in your home life, but using those as ways to focus even harder on what you should be doing and really allowing yourself to be organized and feel scheduled in a way that's going to be most effective to you. And I've always been a big proponent of, if you can get what you need to get done within the allotted time you have, and it doesn't have to be a strict
Yeah.
schedule, I think that just allows people to understand their strengths a lot better, because they know by doing it, by kind of removing some of the chains a little bit, it just gives an opportunity to really focus on where they can be the most productive and during
Yeah.
which parts of the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
You,
so Stella's really giving me the opportunity for that.
yeah, you get when you do it this way, you kind of get a good understanding for what takes you a bit longer and what you can finish a bit faster. So I totally get where you're coming from. But I mean, a follow-up question to this probably is, how do you maintain probably work culture in a remote team when you don't have that physical space where everyone is congregating and exchanging ideas? How do you maintain culture?
Yeah. The word that comes to mind immediately is communication, and finding a strong form of communication. And I don't want to say over communicate, but defining a process for how you want to communicate. And so, how do I communicate up to my boss? How does my boss communicate to me? How do I communicate to my peers? And through all the different great technical platforms that are out there, I know you hear about Slack, Microsoft Teams, obviously email. There's a lot of venues to communicate. And what I've learned is to keep the cultural feeling and to still feel like we're working at Stella, you have to have a little bit of a strategic way that you communicate. It can't necessarily disrupt how people are working, but it needs to be very clear and able to be what we call not moving the goalposts. So if I'm talking about giving updates on something that I'm working on, maybe as an example, it's always beneficial for people to look forward to how you're going to communicate to them, because everyone digests information differently, whether it's in a conversation, through a chat, through an email.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to find that right balance of, if I'm going to communicate something and probably at a high frequency, maybe a couple times throughout the week, maybe a couple times throughout the day, being consistent in that language and the way that you're updating just gives people, I think, a level of comfort in terms of how they're receiving that information. And from a cultural standpoint, that's, I mean, when we're in the office, that's what Stella Connect has really been all about. Transparency, open lines of communication. We sit, our desks are not cubicles. It's open floor seating. So we're very used in our environment culturally to being able to talk to someone right across the table and be able to give an update immediately. So you want to still have that translate into talking over Slack or talking over any of those internal platforms or Zoom. And I've just felt that I want to make sure that when I do communicate, everyone knows it's a message coming from me. It doesn't feel disjointed. It doesn't confuse anyone. It allows someone to either feel engaged, to want to dive into the conversation and give some additional thoughts or comments, or for someone to know, okay, that's, a clear update and I know where that stands. So there's never that feeling of what's going on with Justin, what's going on with his clients and all those roles. And so creating that culturally, keeping that culture feeling is extremely important. I felt that the way that you communicate is one way to really achieve that. And for some of the clients that I work with, so I work with a lot of customer service teams, customer experience teams, and it's been very new to them to go from working in the call center where they've always really worked with all of their clients and customers to now going from home and feeling a little bit more isolated. So it's a huge culture change for them. But what we've heard and what we've seen is keeping some of the daily routine, some of the daily meetings or some of the check-ins that they have, and keeping that in a way that still allows someone to hear someone's voice, see someone's face, or just even have a dialogue, seems to really keep that engagement and cultural feeling still there. Because if you switch from being in a call center where you're hearing everything all points throughout the day to then coming home and not hearing anything, that is a culture shock, and that could be a little demotivating. So my clients really seem to focus on keeping that open dialogue and communication and getting everyone almost excited to look forward to what those communication updates are going to be.
Definitely. I definitely get where you're coming from. A lot of stand-ups and virtual meetings during the day that keeps the motivation going. So I know that one of the biggest advantages of work from home is definitely flexibility, the ability to keep your work, or rather plan your work around your home life. And how much of a role do you think this plays in motivating your team to get work done? What's your thoughts
Yeah, I think it's unique when everyone's used to, when you go to work, you're at work, and that's where you
Yeah.
are. You know, everyone loves maybe their lunch break where they get to go outside or go to their favorite restaurant and have that maybe hour break to kind of just
Hmm.
de-stress and have a
Yeah.
minute to get away. You can now do that in a different form at home and do that in almost in micro bursts, and having
Yeah.
just little moments where after I finish a call, I can go and sit on my couch and check in with my wife, or I can talk or play with my dog for 10 minutes and not feel like I'm getting away from my work. And then I can go right back to the next thing, because I just gave myself that little bit of moment of just stepping away from everything.
Yeah.
When at work, you really have to schedule it, you really have to step out. So allowing yourself to be flexible and do things like cook breakfast, cook a lunch, like take that 15 minutes, block that out on your calendar, as long as it's not interrupting your core responsibilities. Allow yourself to say, hey, just letting everyone know, and that's the communication point, I'm going to be cooking breakfast. And by doing that and communicating that, you might have your peers or colleagues say, hey Justin, what are you making for breakfast this morning? Let's
Hmm.
share photos. And what a great way to just keep a fun dialogue.
Yeah.
But all I'm doing is just in implementing what I'm doing on my home life into work and just kind of molding those together. But like I said, keeping the majority of my time and most of my time focused on getting everything I need to get done within the time I need to get it done, but letting everyone know I'm going to infuse some of my personal life into this. And if I need to take a 20-minute yoga class just to stretch out, maybe some of my peers will jump on and want to do the same thing. And you start to find out some people have commonalities or similar things they like to do in their home life that you never even knew when you were in the office. So that ability to be flexible and do that really motivates me, and I've noticed it motivates a lot of my peers too, to just get excited about the work they're doing, because they know they
Yeah.
can step away and not feel like they're disrupting anything.
So you're saying almost sometimes it's good to blend a little bit of the personal life with the work life, especially in a situation like this when everyone is kind of feeling a little bit isolated, kind of brings you closer together and you get to know more about your colleagues as well. I think that's a really interesting idea. I haven't heard about that before. So I'm learning
So
something new
obviously
today.
the right balance of it, of course,
Yeah, yeah,
not going to
definitely.
detail every brushing
Yeah,
my teeth right
yeah.
now, or yeah. So it's what's the right balance and what'll keep your teams engaged and excited to want to know what you're doing if you're not
Hmm.
doing work or talking to your clients.
Definitely. So earlier I touched on the lack of social connect and how this probably affects a lot of people who are used to it on a day-to-day basis. I myself have a lot of good friends in the office, and I know that I miss that, like you were saying, hallway conversations. You kind of miss that when it's not happening. So how do you get your team excited about working with each other? Especially, I'm talking especially in the case of remote teams who maybe don't see each other that often. How is it? How do you get your teams excited?
Yeah. The word that comes to mind is recognition.
Mhm.
And recognition can mean a lot of different things, but when I think about getting excited, I get excited because there might be a light at the end of the tunnel where I might get a pat on the back or I might get a shout out for doing the things that I work very
Yeah.
hard to do. And so creating culture, like that's a great word to use, culturally creating that recognition frequency where even if it's just a quick little blast or message to your team saying, hey, working with Jake today, we had a great dialogue and we're super excited to be working on this new project. Or
Mhm.
Jake had this really great idea that we're going to implement and just want to make everyone aware. But if it wasn't for Jake and his great ideas, I don't know where we'd be right now. And that's not a monetary reward. It's not, something, I'm not giving them a plaque, but I'm just letting people know I recognize someone doing great work. And that might
Of
not
course.
be as easy to spot when everyone's at home or not in front of each other. And so to get our teams excited, we're really all about recognition, and whether it's a daily recognition, weekly recognition, there is a balance here too of not overdoing it. You don't want to
Yeah.
just keep throwing out to the point where it feels fake and you're forcing it.
Hmm.
But you do want to have those moments where probably in the office, if you had that dialogue, you might not make a big deal about it just because it's just kind of natural. But when you can sit back and say, that was a really great meeting, or that was a really great action that we came out of that meeting with, I want to spotlight that and make sure more people know about it, but in a positive light. I'm not raising alarms. I'm not calling out a problem. I'm just saying, take a minute, everyone, to know that this happened. And I appreciate my colleague or my boss or my team member for doing that. And so for us, it's really keeping ourselves accountable to recognize each other and keeping that at a frequency that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing I would want to reference is, so I work, as I mentioned, with a lot of customer experience teams and through the Stella Connect platform, but a lot of customer experience teams do have some form of a customer feedback channel
Mm-hmm.
or some type of a way to get information from the customers. Utilizing that external feedback is extremely valuable too. So having, in terms of getting people excited, being able to share with the team, this customer said Justin did a great job working with them today and helped solve their problems. Recognizing people for that at a high frequency is always nice
Mm-hmm.
too. It's nice to be recognized by your peers, but to have a complete stranger, a customer of yours or a client of yours, give you that great feedback, finding ways to leverage that and share that across the team creates that excitement, something to look forward to, because, oh, who's going to get the next piece of great feedback from the customers, and can it be me, and if I do get it, what motivates me to get it to happen again. And so Stella Connect is all about real-time customer feedback, so leveraging those pieces of data that are interesting and exciting to the team and sharing that for recognition always seems to be really beneficial to them as well.
Of course. So like a friendly competition between employees.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to phrase it. And there's definitely a competition component to it. I want to be recognized, but there's
Yeah.
also I'm a big believer in karma, so you
Yeah.
give what you get, right? So
Exactly.
just being proactive about it and not waiting for your moment, but just looking for other ways to spotlight people where you feel it's necessary.
Thank you so much for joining us, Justin. I think I've learned a lot from this session, and hopefully everyone has as well.
Thank
You
you.
want to
Thank you
add
so much for inviting
something?
me. Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure chatting with you and appreciate the questions. And during these unique times, any ways to share best practices or just some good ideas to get people motivated and excited. And hopefully, coming out of all this, having people feel more comfortable working from home. Like I said, nothing beats an office experience, but for everyone to know, hey, working from home can actually be a benefit and a tool that I can use where it's necessary. So hopefully there's some new evolution on how people think about working from home. But really appreciate you inviting me, and thank you so much for the conversation.